The Accountant is an action thriller that stars Ben Affleck, Anna Kendrick, and J.K. Simmons, just to name a few. Now, this was a movie that I was definitely interested in the fact that it did look a lot like a new kind of Jason Bourne movie. I mean, all these trailers made it out like, oh, you have this guy, he's a little bit different than everyone else, but he's really good at killing people. And plus you have Ben Affleck starring in it, who's Matt Damon's best friend, so who's not going to compare this to the Bourne movies? The question is, can this movie deliver like those did? So getting into Ben Affleck's character, the movie starts out in his childhood and we discover that he is autistic. And obviously you see that his autism takes a toll on him. He struggles with socializing with different people, even within his own family. However, what's very interesting to see is his father ultimately decided to not give him the special accommodations that kids with autism have. No, he decided to take him under his own wing. You know, when Ben Affleck was a kid, his father would have him and his little brother go out and face their fears. This included standing up to these bullies at school, and it even had them being trained by an expert martial artist. So essentially, Ben Affleck's father was teaching him to not take shit from anyone. Now we move forward to Ben Affleck's adult life. He now works as an accountant, and he is a genius mathematician. You see him still struggling with autism, you know, and the fact that he's not the most social person in the world. But that's where Ben Affleck really does shine in this movie. He does a great job at portraying someone who is dealing with autism. Now the movie flashes over to J.K. Simmons. We see that he's one of the head guys in the U.S. Treasury Department, and his goal is to find Ben Affleck and arrest him. And we discover at this point that Ben Affleck does a lot of his accounting work for criminals. You know, Ben Affleck helps them with their money situations. He keeps them under the radar from the law, and he's even killed a few people along the way. So J.K. Simmons, he brings in this girl who's trying to get work into the government, and he sends her off to do some investigation towards Ben Affleck. Luckily for Ben Affleck, he has been told that J.K. Simmons is coming after him by this person he talks to on the phone who's just known as The Voice. So already I was very invested with Ben Affleck's character in the fact that he's a really smart guy, does a little bit of shady work with criminals, and the fact that he's able to stay one step ahead of people who might be coming after him. So in order to elude J.K. Simmons, Ben Affleck decides to do some low-level legal work for this robotics industry. Here he meets Anna Kendrick. She's an accountant that works for this company. The two do some math work together, and the two of them, through some calculations, they realize that the finances for this company, they don't really add up, which has them wondering if the CEO of this company, John Lithgow, is hiding something. But the two of them can't really delve into that too much because at this point, J.K. Simmons' assistant has figured out how to track down Ben Affleck, and there's another guy out there known as the Assassin who's also coming after Ben Affleck. So between the two of them, they send some guys to come after Ben Affleck and even Anna Kendrick for that matter, but it's all for nothing. Ben Affleck just wastes all these guys. And I will say, the action in this movie, when it happened, was definitely entertaining. The problem is, it did take a little while to get going in certain parts. I get that the movie is trying to get you invested with the characters in this movie, especially with Ben Affleck, but some of the times it did take a little too long. They were staying in one place or they were just talking about this one thing. It has it sitting there like, alright, let's move on here. So now Ben Affleck and Anna Kendrick, they've done more digging into this robotics industry, and they've discovered that somehow, some way, stocks have been reinvested into this company, so they're making more money for themselves. Ben Affleck now knows that John Lithgow is definitely behind this, so now he's going after him. However, a little later on in this movie, we delve into more of the reason why J.K. Simmons wants to find Ben Affleck. J.K. Simmons explains to his assistant that at one point Ben Affleck was arrested for an incident that occurred at his mother's funeral, which led to his father being shot. While he was in prison, Ben Affleck formed a really close friendship with Jeffrey Tambor, but as they were both released, at one point Jeffrey Tambor was murdered by a crime family. And it's at this point Ben Affleck just went out and exacted complete revenge against this crime family. And it's during this time J.K. Simmons was sent to, investigate this, to hunt down Ben Affleck. But as he found Ben Affleck was behind him. He was ready to shoot him down. But strangely enough, after he asked J.K. Simmons some questions, he spared him. So towards the end of this movie, Ben Affleck now decides to go after John Lithgow, and here he is confronted by the assassin. The two have a really insane, just brutal fight between each other, but then the movie drops a big bomb on our laps. We discover that the assassin is in fact Ben Affleck's younger brother, and the two finally talk out like what went on between the two of them. It's like, why did you disappear? You know that we were family. Why didn't you ever get in contact with me over what was going on? I could have helped you out. And after this conversation, they finally reach a point. It's like, all right, I get ya. It's at this point Ben Affleck is able to assassinate John Lithgow. J.K. Simmons and his assistant, they drop the investigation because they see what exactly Ben Affleck was in fact investigating for himself, and with that they dismantle the robotics industry. And then the movie ends with Ben Affleck just driving off to who knows where, and us discovering that the voice, you know, the person who speaks to him on the phone, is in fact a woman who was a young girl who also suffered from autism that Ben Affleck met when he was a kid. So I guess throughout the years, the two just decide to stick together and do accounting assassination work together. Why not, right? So all in all, I will say The Accountant was an enjoyable movie. Ben Affleck gave a really good performance in this movie. He did well in coming off as someone who deals with autism, but is also someone who's great with calculations and great at kicking ass. The rest of the cast did a really good job. No one in this movie did poorly for what they needed to do. It had good action. It had a really intriguing story. It has a few moments that just leave you like, oh, holy shit, I actually didn't see that coming. I will say the pacing in this movie isn't the best, and I will say there are areas with storytelling that the movie is focusing on areas that we're not as invested in as an audience. And while it does feel the movie is trying to come off as a newborn film series to go forward, I will say, although it's certainly not as good as those, it is an enjoyable movie that I did have fun with. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.